Okay, then let's start with the morphology of flowering plants, chapter 5 of biology class 11. Morphology of flowering plants. Morphology meaning is the external structure. So we are going to study external structure of flowering plants. Flowering plants are the angiosperms. In this chapter, we are going to see the root, the stem, the leaf, the inflorescence, the flower, the fruit, the seed, semi-technical description of typical flowering plant, description of some important families. The wide range in the structure of higher plants will never fail to fascinate us. Yes, there are many kind of plants from large trees to small shrubs, herbs and many things else. Even though the angiosperms show a large diversity in external structure or morphology, they are all characterized by presence of roots, stems, leaves, flowers, and fruits. Even though there are many plants, in all these angiospermic plants, we have one thing in common, that is a stem, leaves, root, shoot, etc. These are basic characteristic of the morphological, flowering plants, and of course flowers and fruits. In chapter 2 and 3, plant kingdom and biological classification, we talked about classification of plants based on morphological and other characters. For any successful attempt at classification and understanding any higher plant, or for that matter any living organism, we need to know standard technical terms and standard definitions. Whenever we want to classify any kind of organism or plant, we need to know standard definitions about certain parts of that plant, and we need to know the specific of that organism. Otherwise, we can't classify them. We also need to know about the possible variation in different parts found as adaptations of the plants to their environment. Example, adaptations to various habitats for protection, climbing, storage, etc. We don't only need to identify the specifics like the root, shoot, and stem. We also need to observe their adaptations, how they are modified. There are different types of plants, so there are different types of adaptations. Plants are everywhere, so we need to see all those adaptations. If you pull out any weed, you will see that all of them have roots, stems, and leaves. They may be bearing leaves and fruits. The underground part of the flowering plant is the root system, while the portion above the ground forms the shoot system. If you pull out any kind of plant, whatever it might be, when you pull it out, all of them which you pulled out will have roots, stems, and leaves. They also may be having flowers and fruits as well, depending on the plant. And from this pulled out plant, you observe two sections from the plant, that is the root system that is below the ground and the shoot system that is above the ground. This is the first system where we divide it into, that is root and shoot. Now for the first topic, that is the root. In majority of the dicotyledonous plants, meaning they have two cotyledons, the direct elongation of the radicle leads to the formation of primary root, which grows inside the soil. The root is formed from a structure in the seed called as a radicle. Radicle is the future root, and in most of the dicotyledonous plants, the radicle will directly elongate, which will directly grow, and this leads to the formation of a primary root. This happens obviously inside the soil. It bears lateral roots of several order that are referred to as secondary, tertiary, etc. roots. First, there will be a primary root that is directly from the radicle. After this has grown completely, this primary root will uh, many more lateral roots from these primary roots will start growing, and the lateral roots growing on the primary root are called as secondary roots, and from the secondary roots as well, again lateral roots start growing on the secondary roots. Those are called tertiary, and so we go. The primary roots and its branches constitute the taproot system. This kind of system where first the radical elongates, forms the main shoot, main root, and then secondary roots, tertiary roots originate from the primary root. This is called the taproot system, constitutes the taproot system. This is parts of a flowering plant. This is this primary root is this one, directly elongated from the radical. These are secondary roots. These are tertiary roots. And so we go. This is the root system. This is a taproot system. There are two types of root system, that is taproot and fibrous root. This we see here is a taproot system where we have primary, secondary, and tertiary roots. This is the plant. In the shoot system, there is a pre-information I'm giving right now. In the shoot system, in the stem we see two regions, nodes and internodes. Nodes bear branches, leaves, and buds, whereas nodes are empty regions, spaces between the internodes. The stem constitutes of internodes and nodes, where internodes constitute nothing, whereas let's see later. As seen in the mustard plant, that is figure 5.2a, this one. This is the taproot system. Taproot here. This is fibrous root system. Taproots here we have, this is the main primary root, secondary roots, and so on. On this secondary root, we saw many root-like structures. Those are tertiary roots. Let's continue. In monocotyledonous plants, the primary root is short-lived and is replaced by a larger number of roots. These roots originate from the base of the stem and constitute the fibrous root system. Okay, first thing here, in dicotyledons, that is dicotyledonous plants, mostly we see a direct elongation of the radical and taproot system. Dicotyledonous taproot system. But in monocot, that is not the case. The monocotyledonous plants. These plants, their primary root, we know that radical elongates and primary root is formed. But in case of monocotyledonous plants, this main primary root doesn't last long. It has a short lifetime, and it is therefore replaced, and many kind of other roots from the basal part from here will originate and again grow into the soil. This is called the fibrous root system. As seen in the wheat plant, this is the wheat plant. This is a fibrous root. First, there will be a primary root, then it will be short lived. Then, from here, there will be many more new roots originating from the base, and then they will form a fibrous root system like this. In some plants like grass, monstera, and banyan tree, roots arise from parts of other Roots arise from parts of the plant other than the radicle and are called as adventitious roots. Okay, we saw roots normally arise from the base of the leaf and not leaf plant, but normally in some plants, like example given here, grass, monstera, and banyan tree, roots arise not only from the basal region but even in other parts of the plant. Like in case of a banyan tree, if you see the all supports, very famous, those are all adventitious roots. So their function is for support for the banyan tree. And these special roots which arise from parts other than the radicle are called as adventitious roots. The main function of the root system are absorption of water and mineral from the soil, providing a proper anchorage to the plant parts, storing reserve food material, and synthesis of plant growth regulators. This is the adventitious root here. Adventitious root. These are the roots which originate from the stem here. Now, the main functions, if we see, what is the function of a root? What does a root do? First one, it is the main function, first function, absorption of water. Basic. We know that plants absorb water through roots from the soil and minerals from the soil, providing a second function, providing an anchorage to the plant parts. That is the second main function, providing support to the plants, like not letting them fall or fly off due to some wind or something like that. And third function is storing reserve food material and synthesis of plant growth regulators. The third function is storing reserve food material. This in we see in case of carrot. Carrot is stored food material. And the fourth main function is synthesis of plant growth regulators. We have seen plant growth regulators. We saw two of them, that is abscisic acid and ethylene. Okay, we will not talk about that. It's just listed here. We will see more about that in plant growth. Anyways, that is for this page. Now let's go to the next page. Let's see the regions of the root. Regions of the root. The root is covered at the apex by a thimble-like structure called the root cap. I will first read it and explain it later. It protects the tender apex of the root as it makes its way through the soil. A few millimeters above the root cap is the region of meristematic activity. The cells of this region are very small, thin walled, and with dense cytoplasm. They divide repeatedly. The cells proximal to this region undergo rapid elongation and enlargement and are responsible for the growth of the root in length. This region is called the region of elongation. The cells of the elongation zone gradually differentiate and mature. Hence, this zone, proximal to the region of elongation, is called the region of maturation. From this region, some of the epidermal cells form very fine and delicate thread-like structures called as root hairs. These root hairs absorb water and minerals from the soil. Okay, these are the regions of a root. This is the root tip that is having a root cap. Above it here is the region of meristematic activity, which is well protected by the root cap, region of elongation, a region of maturation, and root hairs. Okay, what they have said here is that in the regions of root, if we see the tip of a root, we will observe that a root is covered by a thimble-like structure that is called as root cap. What this root cap's function is it protects the tender apex of the root as it makes way through the soil. As the root cap is like as the root is going into the soil, the apex of the root tip, that is the meristematic region of meristematic activity, is very tender. It can easily be destroyed. So root cap is acting as a protection from it getting destroyed due to soil hardness. Anyways, that is the region of the I mean the function of the root cap. It protects the tender apex of the root as it makes its way through the soil. A few millimeters above the root cap is the region of meristematic activity. Just little above the root cap is the region of meristematic activity. The cells of this meristematic activity region are very small. They are very small celled, thin walled, and have dense cytoplasm. They divide repeatedly. The region of meristematic activity is the place where a rapid cell division occurs. That is the reason a root can grow down due to the region of meristematic activity where cells divide. The cells of this region are very small. The characteristics of the meristematic activity cells are they are small. First point, they are small. Second point, they have dense cytoplasm, nutrient rich. And they are thin walled. They divide rapidly. These are the main characteristics of the cell of the region of meristematic activity. And just above the region of meristematic activity, we see the region of elongation. That is, the cells proximal to this region undergo rapid elongation, meaning this is the meristematic activity. Proximal to it, close to it, above it is a region of elongation, and here the cells undergo rapid elongation. In the first case, we saw the cells were small and dense cytoplasm and thin walled, but in the region of elongation, these small cells will start to elongate to increase the root height or the length of the root more specifically. This is the undergo rapid elongation and enlargement. They're enlarged, and enlargement and are responsible for the growth of the root in length. They increase the length of the root. This is the region of elongation. Now, above that is the region of maturation. After this region, I mean the cells in the elongation region, after they completely enlarge, they can only grow for certain time. As they reach their maximum size, they will get matured and they will lose the ability to divide. The cells of the elongation zone gradually differentiate and mature. Differentiate meaning lose the ability to divide, and mature. That is why this region, the zone proximal to the region of elongation, proximal meaning close to the region of elongation, above it is the region of maturation, where the cells lost the ability to divide and are in their maximum size. From this region, from this region of maturation, that is called the region of maturation, some root-like structures arise. These are very fine structures and they are called as root hairs. The function of these root hairs is to absorb water and minerals from the soil. That is about the region of the root. Now let's see about the modifications of the root. This is the banyan tree, our famous banyan tree. Modification of root for mechanical support in banyan tree. Modifications of root. Roots in some plants change their shape and structure and become modified to perform functions other than absorption and conduction of water and minerals. We know the main function of root is absorption of nutrients, water, and conduction of it. But modifications are root, in which cases root is modified to perform other functions and that. In case of banyan tree, it is for support. They are modified for the examples are given here, like what kind of modifications can happen. They can be modified for support in case of banyan tree, storage of food in case of carrot, radish, and respiration. This we will see in rhizophora. Yeah, here if we see in rhizophora, respiration, pneumatophore in rhizophora. These spike-like structures above the ground are actually roots. They have numerous holes in them. These spiky structures surrounding the tree are actually the roots of the tree. They have numerous pores, and these structures are called as pneumatophores here, and they help in respiration of the root, gas exchange basically. As for why the plant's leaf cannot perform the gas exchange performed in the leaf is used for photosynthesis. But as the rest of the tree and roots need oxygen, and in case of the region where rhizophora is present, the roots do not get sufficient oxygen exchange, I mean gases exchange, if they are underground, so they form these pneumatophores for convenience in gas exchange. This is for storage here, that is turnip, carrot, sweet potato, even radish. So that as these are the diagrams. Let's read more about the modifications of root. They are modified for support, storage of food, and respiration. Taproots of carrot, turnip, and adventitious roots of sweet potato get swollen and are and store food. Okay. The first modification, that is storage. That in case of carrot and turnip, it is the taproots. Taproots, they get modified and get swollen so that they can store food. In case of sweet potato, it is the adventitious roots, the roots that arise from part other than the radicle. These roots get swollen up and store food. Can you give some more such examples? We can say radish. Have you ever wondered what those hanging structures that support a banyan tree are? These are called as prop roots. Similarly, okay, first let's get a clarification here. These are adventitious roots we know. In the banyan tree, the support is given by roots, that is adventitious roots. These supporting roots are called as prop roots. Prop roots, they give mechanical support to the banyan tree. In another cases, that is in case of a stem of a maize and in case of sugarcane, these also have supporting roots, not as big as the banyan tree, but they also have some supporting structures near the base of the plant coming out from the lower nodes of the stem. These are called as stilt roots. In case of banyan tree, the support roots, adventitious roots are called as prop roots. In case of sugarcane or maize, these supporting roots are called as stilt roots. I believe there was a diagram. It seems there isn't a diagram. Fine. Okay. In some plants, such as rhizophora, growing in swampy areas, many roots come out of the ground and grow vertically upward. Such roots, called pneumatophores, help to get oxygen for respiration. This we talked about before. These are the pneumatophores. These are the storage modifications, that is turnip, carrot, and sweet potato. Sweet potato is an adventitious root modification. It seems that is hard to understand, but just remember it is adventitious root modification. There is not enough space to write there. Now let's go to the next main topics, that is the stem. What are the features that distinguish a stem from a root? If you observe carefully, how can you say this part, that is the down part, is called the root and the above part is called a stem? The stem is the ascending part of the axis bearing branches, meaning it will grow up, leaves, flowers, and fruits. It is an axis that bears branches, leaves, flowers, and fruits. Basically, stem will go up, the stem will be growing up, and laterally, branches, leaves, flowers, and fruits will be growing. That is what they mean by ascending part of the axis bearing. In case of fruit, it is also the same thing as it bears lateral roots, secondary in case of taproot system, but instead of going up, it is a descending axis. It goes down in case of taproot system. It develops from the plumule of the embryo of the germinating seed. Radicle is the future root, plumule is a future shoot. The stem bears nodes and internodes. I have told about this as well. The region of the stem where leaves are born are called as nodes, while internodes are the portions between the two nodes. If there is a plant, there are two regions here in the stem, that are nodes and internodes. The nodes are the places where uh, branches, leaves, and flowers or auxiliary buds or whatever may be arise, but the region between two nodes which doesn't bear such things is called as internodes. The stem bears buds which may be terminal or axillary. Stem is generally green when young and later often become woody and dark brown. That is obvious because we have seen many trees in our surroundings, and if it was young plant, we see it was having a green stem, whereas if it was trees, most of the trees have a dark and woody texture in their stem. The main function of the stem is spreading out branches bearing leaves, flowers, and fruits. What is the main function of the stem? The main function of the stem is spreading out branches bearing leaves, flowers, and fruits. As for why? Leaves, as it can better facilitate in photosynthesis to catch more sunlight. For flowers and fruits, maybe for aid in pollination, easier pollination, and fruits maybe for easier dispersal of seeds, etc. It conducts water, minerals, and photosynthesis. Some stems perform the function of storage of food, support, protection, and of vegetative propagation. Okay. Another function of the stem is it conducts water. It conducts water, mineral, and photosynthesis. If you think carefully, where the water collected in the root goes from the root, how the water collected in the root goes from the root to other portions of the plant, like leaves and other portions, it goes through the stem because the stem will conduct the water and minerals. And other functions of the like or modifications of stem is, in some cases, in case of cactus, if we see, the stem is actually photosynthesizing. There are no leaves. Actually, there are leaves for cactus, but the leaves are modified into thin needles. They do not perform photosynthesis. Only the stem performs the photosynthesis. It's called as a phylloclade, which we can see in the practical manuals, in lab manuals, etc. There's not much given here, I believe, or maybe it is. I'll check. Modifications of the stem. The stem may not always be typically like what they are expected to be. They are modified to perform different functions. Underground stems of potato, ginger, turmeric, zamindkand, colocasia are modified to store food in them. Basically, we know potato grows underground. Potato is a vegetable, but it is not similar to carrot and radish. It is not growing from root, but it's going from a stem tuber, what we call. A potato is a tuber formed from the stem. It acts as a storage. Underground stems, that is what they mean by underground stems of potato, ginger, turmeric, zamindkand, colocasia, these are all modified to store food in them. They also act as organs of perennation to tide over conditions unfavorable for growth. Stem tendrils, which develop from axillary buds, are slender and spirally coiled and help plants to climb, such as in gourds, cucumbers, pumpkins, and watermelon, grapevines, etc. Okay, before that, let's see they act as organs for perennation. I do not know what that means. Let's check it out. How does potato act as an organ for perennation? Okay, I understand. Basically, the potato is, as I said before, is a tuber and it contains starch synthesis. I mean, it synthesizes starch and stores it. Extreme starch is present. There are certain places in the potato where we call the eye of the potato. There's the eye of a potato, and when there are unfavorable conditions, like when a plant dies of winter or anything like that, at that conditions, even though the plant will die, the potato, which is having all the starch and material, will be safe, protected inside the soil. After the safe, like actual normal conditions come, like at after the winter season passes and all, this eye will develop into the next shoot, so it will become again a new plant. Therefore it is acting as an organ for perennation. That is what perennation means. Like after it, the plant will die but the potato will survive, and the potato will again grow into a new plant. This is the eye, which is the node of a plant, node of the stem, like node of the potato. They also act as organs of perennation to tide over conditions unfavorable for growth. Stem tendrils, which develop from axillary buds, are slender, spirally coiled, and help plants to climb, such as in gourds. Another modification of stems is seen as tendrils, stem tendrils. Tendrils. Yes, these are the stem tendrils. In case of pumpkins, cucumbers, and such, if we see, there are tendrils formed, and these tendrils help in climbing of the plants. Very useful to remember that they develop from the axillary bud modified into a tendril. The axillary bud, which is formed, will get modified into a tendril for the plant's need for climbing. This is seen in cucumber, pumpkins, watermelons. These are called as gourds, and also in grapes, grapevines. Axillary buds of stems may also get modified into woody, straight, and pointed thorns. One more modification of the axillary buds can be modified into tendrils, which help in climbing. They can also get modified into woody, straight, and pointed structures, basically thorns. Thorns we see in many plants. Thorns are found in many plants such as citrus, bougainvillea, and they protect plants from browsing animals. Basically, for protection, the thorns are for protection. Some plants of arid regions modify their stems into flattened or fleshy cylindrical structures. Okay, Opuntia is basically our cactus here. Euphorbia, it is this plant here. In case of Opuntia, the stem is flattened and fleshy, and in case of Euphorbia, it is cylindrical. They contain chlorophyll and carry out photosynthesis. Okay, as I said before, there is a phylloclade in case of Opuntia, that is cactus, which will perform photosynthesis. And this we see it is flattened in case of Opuntia and cylindrical in case of Euphorbia. These contain chlorophyll and they carry out photosynthesis. There are some pictures here. Let's see the pictures. Modification of stem. A for storage. That is in case of potato, if we see potatoes, amincan, and ginger. B, that is climbing. For support, the axillary bud get modified into tendrils. Next, in case of C, that is citrus and bougainvillea plants, that is for protection. The stem modified into a spine. Next is D, spread and vegetative propagation. Basically, vegetative propagation is a kind of sexual reproduction where the vegetative parts of the plant will give rise to a new plant. This is called as vegetative propagation, and there is also a function of the modified root. Underground stems of some plants, such as grass and strawberry, etc., spread to new niches, and when older parts die, new plants are formed. Yeah, perfect example for vegetative propagation. Like basically, there will be underground stems, and they will be in case of strawberry, we see, and they will be spreading to new places. And after the older part dies, this stem will arise and will give birth to a new plant. This is vegetative propagation. In plants like mint and jasmine, a slender lateral branch arises from the base of the main axis, and after growing aerially for some time arc downward to touch the ground. Okay, let's read that again. Basically, in plants like mint and jasmine, there are two kind of plants. A slender lateral branch. Basically, there will be a main stem, and from this there will be a lateral branch. It will be very thin, very slender, and this will arise from the base of the main axis. From the base of the main stem, it will arise this slender lateral branch, and after it will grow sometime upwards aerially, and it becomes, if this was the plant, It will go like this, and again, due to gravity, will again bend down like this. This is a slender branch, and it will touch the ground. A lateral branch with short internodes and node bearing a rosette of leaves and a tuft of roots. Wait. Maybe this, if after this completely touch the ground, it will form roots and will become into a new plant. That is one kind of vegetative propagation. And next propagation is we see in aquatic plants. That is a lateral branch. It is also a lateral branch with short internodes, many nodes meaning, and each node bearing a rosette of leaves, like very short internodes, a lateral branch it is, very more nodes, leaves will be there. These are leaves, assume they are leaves, and it's a perfect drawing. Very these are internodes, and these are nodes. Internodes and nodes. They will have a bunch of leaves, and there will also be roots as well. I will not be drawing the roots, it will not be understandable in this diagram. A tuft of roots. This is found in case of aquatic plants like Pistia and Eichhornia. These are two aquatic plants where if we see there a lateral branch will contain this a tuft of roots, short internodes, nodes containing leaves, and this will help in vegetative propagation. In banana, if we see, in banana, pineapple, and chrysanthemum, the lateral branches originate from the basal and underground portion of the main stem, grow horizontally beneath the soil, and then come out obliquely upwards, giving rise to leafy shoots. Okay, another kind of vegetative propagation we see in our chrysanthemum, banana, and pineapple trees. These kind of plants, there won't be an upward, basically the stem won't grow upward, it will grow below the ground, it won't be visible to us. Underground, if you see, the stem will grow laterally, I mean horizontally underground, and spread to a new region, and after doing that it will come out obliquely, meaning if this was a banana plant, then this will be the root. This will be the root, or it's not banana, fine. There will be a stem like this. If this was the ground, then there will be a stem. This is a stem, not a root. A stem will be growing like this, and after some time at a new region it will come out like this, and this will become a new plant. That is how another type of vegetative propagation through stem modification works in case of banana, pineapple, and chrysanthemum. Okay, we saw many kinds of vegetative propagation here. Let's see that again. The first one in case of the aerially growing branch, in case of mint and jasmine. In mint and jasmine, there will be a slender lateral branch growing from the base like this. It will touch the ground and a new plant will form. Second one in aquatic plants like Pistia and Eichhornia, There will be a lateral branch with short internodes and rosette and nodes containing a rosette of leaves and tuft of roots, which will originate to give rise to new plants. And in case of banana, pineapple, and chrysanthemum, we see this kind of propagation. Now let's see the next main topic, that is our favorite, leaf. The leaf is a lateral, generally flattened structure born on the stem. It develops at the node and bears a bud in its axil. The axillary bud later develops into a branch. Leaves originate from shoot apical meristems and are arranged in an acropetal order. Okay, the leaf is a lateral general. There is a basic definition of a leaf. We all know about leaves, but a basic general definition is the leaf is a lateral, generally flattened. We know the leaves are flat. Structure born on the stem. It's a structure that is seen on the stem. It develops at the node and bears a bud in its axil. We all know it's also developed from the buds, that is axillary buds, and the nodes of the stem, and the axillary bud will develop at its axil, and this axillary bud later develops into a branch. Leaves originate from shoot apical meristems and are arranged in an acropetal order. Okay, I think we'll see about this acropetal more in the later section, that is in phyllotaxy or modifications of leaf or not. Fine. The leaves originate from shoot apical meristems and arranged in acropetal order. Let's just see this right now itself. What is what are the two types of successions in leaves, and what is the acropetal succession? Basically, what this succession means like if leaves arise uh, from the tip to bottom or from bottom to tip. That is, we have two names, that is acropetal and basipetal. In botany, we talk about successions in leaves, which we usually mean the order in which leaves develop or mature along a stem or root, a shoot. There are two main types, that is acropetal succession. Definition is the older leaves are at the base of the stem and the younger leaves are progressively formed towards the tip. Meaning, if there is a plant, at the lower height of the plant, older leaves will be there. As we go up, newer leaves will be originating. This is the acropetal succession. Direction is from base towards the apex. Examples, most shoots, like most of them follow the higher plants, like most of the higher plants follow this acropetal succession. Maybe that is why they didn't mention basipetal here, or I'm not sure in NCERT. Here, acropetal section is the older leaves at the base of the stem and younger leaves are progressively formed towards the tip. Direction from base towards the apex. Examples, most of them. Mnemonic, like how the name was named, acro means apex. Apex only new leaves are formed. So it is from base towards apex, so it is acropetal section. And in case of basipetal section, it is the exact opposite. The older leaves are at the apex and the younger leaves are formed towards the base. Like from there, the direction is towards the base, from apex to base. Like newer flowers will be formed at the base of the plant instead of the apex of the plant. That is indeed not what we think, but generally most of the higher plants follow octopetal succession. Okay, the leaf is a generally flattened structure born on a stem. It is developed at the node and bears a bud on its axis. This axillary bud later develops into a branch. Leaves originate from shoot apical meristems and are arranged in an acropetal order. They are the most important vegetative organs for photosynthesis, that is. A typical leaf consists of three parts, that is, a leaf base, a petiole, and a lamina. The leaf is attached to the stem by the leaf base and may bear two lateral small leaf-like structures called as stipules. Okay, first thing, a typical leaf consists of three main parts. The three main parts are the leaf base, the first one, a petiole, the stalk of the leaf, lamina, that is the leaf blade. These are the three parts. Leaf base is this one. Let's see the diagram here. Leaf base is this one here. A petiole is the stalk of the leaf, this one, and this whole thing is the lamina. And this is the axillary bud. And there are small leaf-like appendages formed that are called as stipules. Let's read. And the leaf base is attached to the stem by the leaf base. I mean, why we call a separate part called as leaf base is because the leaf is attached to the stem by this leaf base structure, and this may have two lateral small leaf-like structure called as stipules. Basically, leaf is connected to the stem by leaf base, and around this leaf base there might be two small leaf-like appendages or structures that can be called as stipules. Stipules are structures that are around the leaf base, which might be leaf-like appendages, and the plant which has leaves having stipules is called as a stipulate leaf, and next one is an exstipulate leaf which doesn't have stipules. In monocotyledons, the leaf base expands into a sheath covering the stem partially or wholly. Normally, whatever we see around us, these kind of leaves are one kind of leaves, and in another kind of leaves that we see in monocotyledon, if we see maize for an example, maize, maize leaves, if we see it is covering the stem here, this is a monocotyledon plant and it is covering the whole leaf, I mean the whole stem. This is covering the stem because it is a kind of new kind of leaf. It is seen in monocots. In some leguminous plants, the leaf base may become swollen, which is called the pulvinus. This is an important characteristic of the leguminous plants, where in case of leguminous plants, they have a swollen leaf base. The base will be something like this if we see a picture. Pulvinus leaf base. This is the leaf base here, where it is swollen here. This is the special characteristic of a leguminous plant. That is called the pulvinous leaf base. The petiole help would hold the blade to light. The petiole, it will support the leaf so that it will hold the leaf blade, the lamina, to the light. That is why we need to do that, for photosynthesis, of course, for more leaf to be exposed to the sunlight. Long, thin, flexible petioles allow leaf blades to flutter in the wind, thereby cooling the leaf and bringing fresh air to the leaf surface. What is the function of a flexible petiole? It will allow the leaf to flutter in the wind, and by doing that, it will allow the leaf to, because of getting heated by the sunlight, it needs to be cooled. Because of wind, it will get cooled, and gas exchange will also be facilitated because fresh air will be brought to the leaf. The lamina or the leaf blade is the green expanded part of the leaf with vein and veinlets. Okay, if we see the leaf here, this is the typical leaf, and this is the leaf blade. This whole thing is a leaf blade, and if we see here, there are specific vein like structures here. This is called veins and veinlets. These are present in the leaf blade. There is usually a middle prominent vein which is known as the rachis, or I mean not rachis, the midrib. Veins provide rigidity to the leaf blade and act as channels of transport for water, minerals, and food materials. The shape, margin, apex surface, and extent of incision of lamina varies in different leaves. Okay, what is the function of these veins and veinlets? They support the leaf, they provide a rigidity to the structure of the lamina, they act as a endoskeleton, and they also like it for photosynthesis there is a need for resources, that is water. For example, this water is provided by the veinlets which will transport the water and minerals. And as for the types of this is called arrangement of veins and veinlets in the lamina of leaf is called as a venation, and this is different in different kind of plants. Okay, let's go to the topic itself. The topic of venation. The arrangement of veins and veinlets in the lamina of the leaf is termed as a venation. When the veinlets form a network, the venation is termed as a reticulate. When the veins run parallel to each other within a lamina, the venation is termed as a parallel. Leaves of dicotyledonous plants generally possess reticulate venation, while parallel venation is a characteristic of the most monocotyledons. Okay, what that means is the leaf blade contains a network of veins and veinlets, or has veins and veinlets. This arrangement of veins and veinlets is called as a venation, a new term. And when these veinlets form a network like this, forming a network like this is one veinlet, and it is forming numerous branches like this, and so on. This is a network like structure. It is called as a reticulate venation. Reticulate venation. And another kind of venation is a parallel venation. In this case, this is a banana leaf. It will be parallel to each other like this. It's better to not draw, it's better to observe. Here, if we observe, it will be parallel to each other. Variations will be parallel to each other. This is the structure of a leaf. And generally, leaves of dicotyledonous plants, dicot plants will have reticulate leaves like this, and monocot plants will have parallel venation. Even though they might not be exactly same, they will have, monocots will have this kind of venation, that is the banana leaf kind of venation, and normal plants will have, dicot plants will have normal leaf kind of venation. Next topic is the types of leaves. A leaf is said to be simple when its lamina is entire or when incised, the incisions do not touch the midrib. When the incisions of the lamina reach up to the midrib, breaking it into a number of leaves or leaflets, the leaf is called compound. Basically, we saw number of incisions making different structures of leaves, and when these incisions on the leaflet do not touch the lamina or there are no incisions at all, we call it as a simple leaf. But if there are incisions of the lamina dividing a single leaf into many leaflets and rachis, it is called as a compound leaf. It is breaking a single leaf into many kind of leaflets. In case of neem, if we see compound leaves, these both are compound leaves because it is a single leaf but broken into many leaflets. In case of this as well, this is a silk cotton, this is a palmately compound leaf, and this is a pinnately compound leaf. A bud is present in the axil of the petiole in both simple and compound leaves, but not the axil of the leaflets of the compound leaf. A bud will be there at the axil of the leaf, not the leaflets. A single leaf will divide into many leaflets. So a single leaf will have a single petiole. A number of leaflets will not have a number of buds, but only a single bud. The compound leaves may be two types. The division of compound leaves is one is pinnately compound, the second one is palmately compound. In a pinnately compound leaf, number of leaflets are present on the common axis. The rachis, which represents the midrib of the leaf, as in neem. This is a neem. This is silk cotton. Neem will show a pinnately compound leaf structure. Silk cotton, which will show a palmately compound leaf structure. In palmately compound leaves, the leaflets are attached at the common point, that is at the tip of the petiole, as in silk cotton. In silk cotton, if we see, the leaflets are attached at a single point. These are not leaves, these are leaflets attached at the tip of the petiole. Phyllotaxy. The classification of different types of leaves based on their arrangement is called as phyllotaxy. Phyllotaxy is a pattern of arrangement of leaves on the stem or branch. This is usually of three types. There are three types of phyllotaxy, that is alternate, opposite, and whorled. Phyllotaxy is a pattern of arrangement. It is important to observe that it is a pattern of arrangement of leaves, that is arrangement of leaves on the stem or branch. Arrangement of leaves on stem or branch, and there are three types, that is alternate, opposite, and whorled. That is, in case of a China rose, it is alternate venation. What is alternate venation means is, if there is a leaf here, there will be one here, and here, and here. They won't be together, but they will be above each other like floors, but on different side. Basically, this is one leaf, this is one leaf, this is one leaf, and this is one leaf. In case of the opposite venation, not venation, opposite classification, it will be, they'll be opposite to each other like floors, but on the same side, on both the sides. In case of whorled, it will be a wall like this, a wall like this, a wall like this. Phyllotaxy is a pattern of arrangement of leaves on stem or branch. This is usually of three types: alternate, opposite, and whorled. In alternate type of phyllotaxy, a single leaf arises at each node in alternate manner. That is what I said here. As in China rose basically hibiscus, mustard, and sunflower plants. In examples for alternate type of phyllotaxy is China rose, hibiscus. China rose basically means hibiscus, mustard plants, and sunflower plants as well. In case of opposite type of pair of leaves arise at each node and lie in opposite to each other. as in calotropis in guava plants. If more than two leaves arise at node from arise at a node and form a whorl, it is called as a whorl, as in alstonia. Okay, the opposite type is basically seen in calotropis and guava plants, as we see here. And if more than two leaves arrive, the definition of whorled phyllotaxy is if more than two leaves arise in the same node. In case of this, if we see a classification, in case of alternate phyllotaxy, only one leaf arises at at a single node. These are nodes, and only one leaf arises at a single node. In case of guava plant, two leaves arise at a single node. In case of world or Alstonia, two, more than two, more than two, more than two leaves arise from a single node is called as world. Single for alternate, double for opposite, more than two for world. Examples are for one leaf at a node, it is hibiscus, mustard, and it was sunflower. And for two, it is guava and calotropis. For world, it is Alsonia, the devil tree. Now, if we see the modifications of leaves, leaves are often modified to perform functions other than photosynthesis. Main function of leaf is photosynthesis, but modification meaning they do something other than photosynthesis. They are converted into tendrils, similar to how the axillary bud in case of stem modification was converted into tendrils in case of gourds and grapevines. Here, the leaves in some plants are converted into tendrils for support and climbing, like in peas if we see, or into spines for defense, as in cactus. In cactus, that is opuntia, I told you that leaves do not perform photosynthesis. They are turned into spines, basically thorns. Or we can call it as spines, not actually thorns. They're spines. They will help for protection. The actual organ performing the photosynthesis is a stem that is called as a phylloclade. The fleshy leaves of onion and garlic store food. In some plants, such as Australian acacia, the leaves are small and short lived. The petioles in these plants expand, become green, and synthesize food. Leaves for this is called as a cladode. Leaves of certain insectivorous plants, such as a pitcher plant, Venus flytrap, are also modified leaves. Okay, there are more number of modification given in a short paragraph. First thing, as in PFVC, modified as leaves are modified as tendrils for support. In case of cactus, if we see, that is opuntia, we see they are modified into spines. In case of an onion, these are all leaves, these are all fleshy leaves, they store food. That is why we eat an onion. And the fourth modification is in case of an Australian acacia. In an Australian acacia, the petioles, basically the leaves are short-lived. After the leaves die and fall off, the petiole, the stalk of the leaf, will expand and get swollen to become a photosynthesizing organ. This structure that is formed from the petiole is called as a cladode. It will help in photosynthesis. And in case of the famous Venus flytrap and pitcher plants, those insectivorous plants which capture insects, the structure that captures insects is actually a modification of a leaf. Leaf is modified into the Venus flytrap, like the catching organ, the actual trap, the inflorescence. A flower is a modified shoot wherein the shoot, apical meristem, changes to a floral meristem. Internodes do not elongate, and the axis. Okay. The next main topic, that is inflorescence. What is the inflorescence? Let's read the paragraph first. A flower is modified shoot. Okay, they are saying that a flower is a modification of the shoot. The shoot is modified and it will become the flower. This is not very obvious, but that is the case. The flower is a modified shoot. The shoot apical meristem changes to floral meristem. Basically, there will be a shoot apical meristem. That is the meristem, that is the dividing meristem, meaning the dividing part of the plant, which will rapidly divide and lead to the growth of the plant. A part of this shoot apical meristem will change from shoot apical meristem to the floral meristem. Floral meristem will give rise to the flower. Internodes do not elongate and the axis gets condensed. The apex produces different kinds of floral appendages, laterally at successive nodes instead of leaves. At some nodes, the apex will produce different kinds of floral appendages, meaning it will produce flowers, that is floral meristem. Floral meristem to flowers instead of leaves. When a shoot tip transforms into a flower, it is always solitary. The arrangement of flowers on the floral axis is termed as an inflorescence. Okay, it is basically what they're saying is whenever at a single node, the floral meristem, it will be only a single flower. Solitary, that's what means. The shoot tip transforms into a flower and it is always solitary. Now let's come to the definition of the inflorescence. The arrangement of flowers, how Venetian was the arrangement of veins and veinlets. And here, inflorescence is the arrangement of flowers on the floral axis is called as an inflorescence. The arrangement of flowers on the floral axis is termed as an inflorescence. Depending on whether the apex gets developed into a flower or continues to grow, two major types of inflorescences are defined: racemose and cymose. In racemose type of inflorescences, the main axis continues to grow. The flowers are borne laterally in an acropetal section, same acropetal here. In cymose type of inflorescence, the main axis terminates in a flower, hence is limited in growth. The flowers are borne in the basipetal order. Okay, basically there are two types of inflorescences, that is racemose and cymose. Racemose inflorescences is where the plant will show continuous growth, it will not stop. Normally we know that plants can grow indefinitely, and this kind of plant will have indefinite growth. And in case of a cymose inflorescence, the flower net will not have continuous growth. At the tip of the shoot apex, that is all the shoot meristem, like shoot apical meristem, will turn into a floral meristem. This will cause a flower to arise at the tip of the flower, at the tip of the shoot, meaning at that time the flower will stop growing. Not flower, the shoot will stop growing. It is a limited inflorescence, limited in growth. Cymose is a limited in growth. Racemose, unlimited growth. There is no flower at the tip, so the plant can grow indefinitely. And in case of racemose, it is an acropetal section of the flowers, meaning the flowers will get arranged from in the laterally from base to top, base to apex. Older flowers will be at the bottom, newer flowers will be at the top. But in case of the cymose inflorescence, the newer flowers will be at the bottom, the older flowers will be at the top. Now let's go to the next main topic, that is the flower The flower is the reproductive unit in the angiosperms. It is meant for sexual reproduction. A typical flower has four different kinds of whorls arranged successively on the swollen end of the stalk or pedicel called thalamus or receptacle. Okay, we know that the flower is the reproductive unit in angiosperm and it is for sexual reproduction. And for a typical flower, it will contain four whorls. The first whorl is corolla, the calyx. The first whorl is the calyx, that is sepals. The second whorl is corolla, the petals. The third whorl is the androecium, that is the male reproductive organ. And the fourth whorl is the gynoecium, the female reproductive organ, and these four whorls are arranged on a swollen end of the stalk. The stalk of a leaf, a flower, is called as a pedicel, and there will be a swollen end for this pedicel, and at this swollen end, that is called the base of the flower. It is the thalamus. It is called as thalamus or as receptacle, and the four whorls will be arranged on this thalamus or receptacle. These whorls are, as I said before, calyx, corolla, androecium, and gynoecium. Calyx and corolla are accessory whorls or organs. Calyx and corolla, that is sepals and petals, they are basically accessory, meaning they are non-functional. They're just for show. Whereas androecium and gynoecium, the main reproductive organs of the plant. While androecium and gynoecium are essential and reproductive organs. In some flowers, like lily, the calyx and corolla are not distinct and are termed as a perianth. In some cases, where we cannot differentiate sepals and petals and they are together, this kind of structure is termed as a perianth. When a flower like this perianth is seen in flowers like lily, where sepals are not differentiable from the petals, it is termed as a perianth. When a flower has both androecium and the petals and calyx, the sepals, we call it as tepals. Not petals or sepals, but they are called as tepals in case of a perianth. When a flower has both androecium and gynoecium, it is bisexual. When there are both male and female reproductive organs in a flower, it is a bisexual flower. A flower having only stamen, that is male reproductive organ, or carpel or pistil, that is female reproductive organ, is called as a unisexual flower. In symmetry, the flower may be symmetry of a flower we are talking about. The flower may be actinomorphic radial symmetry or zygomorphic bilateral symmetry. There are two types of symmetry in a flower, that is actinomorphic radial symmetry or zygomorphic bilateral symmetry. When a flower can be divided into two equal radial halves in any radial plane passing through the center, it is called as actinomorphic flower. When a flower can be divided into equal halves through any cut passing through the center, it is called as actinomorphic flower. Example is mustard, datura, chili. Mustard flower or datura flower or chili flower, if you see, it will be actinomorphic. When it can be divided into two similar halves only in one particular vertical plane, it is called as a zygomorphic flower. Example: pea, gulmohar, bean, cassia. Pea, gulmohar, bean, and cassia. A flower is asymmetric, irregular if it cannot be divided into two similar halves at any vertical plane passing through the center, as in kanna. In case of kanna, it is an asymmetric flower. There are three types: actino, zygo, and asymmetric flowers. Now let's go to the number of petals. A flower may have trimerous, tetramerous, or pentamerous. Three petals, four petals, or five petals. And the floral appendages are in multiple of 3, 4, 5 respectively. Flowers are with bracts, reduced leaf, found at base of the pedicel are called as bracteate, and those without bracts are called as ebracteate. There is one more classification. First one, it can be tri, tetra, and pentamerous. That is number of flowers. When the not number of flowers, when the number of the floral appendages are in multiple of 3, 4, or 5. If there are 6 or 9 flowers, we call it as trimerous. Not flowers, petals. If there are 4 or 8 petals, we call it as tetramerous. If there are 5, 10, or 15 petals, it is called as pentamerous. And if the flowers contain bract, what are bract if you ask? Bract are reduced leaf. They are reduced leaf found at the base of the pedicel. Pedicel is the stalk of the flower, and the base of the pedicel there are reduced leaf. If they are found, means the flower is a bracteate flower, and without those bracts, we call it as an ebracteate flower. And now based on position of calyx, corolla, and androecium in respect to the ovary on the thalamus. A flower as described as hypogynous, perigynous, and epigynous. There is one more classification here. One more classification based on the position of the gynoecium. Basically, the position of the ovary. There will be an ovary in the flower, that is in the female reproductive organ, and based on this position of the ovary, a flower can be termed as hypogynous, perigynous, and epigynous. If the ovary is if the ovary occupies the highest position in the flower, meaning calyx, corolla, and stamen are below it, like in position. If you see, ovary is the highest. Below that only petals, sepals originate from. In such a case where ovary occupies the highest position, it is called as a hypogynous configuration, or a hypogynous ovary called the superior ovary. In case of this one and this both cases, B and C, it is perigynous, meaning it is not the highest position, it is not the lowest position, it is a middle position. The middle position of the ovary situation here as well. Both of the situation where the ovary occupies a middle position is called as a perigynous ovary. And in case of B, this one we can clearly see the ovary is occupying the least position, the lowest position where the calyx, corolla are above it. It is called as a epigynous condition, where here it is a superior ovary, the half inferior or half superior ovary, and the completely inferior ovary. And as for examples, we'll see here. In the hypogynous flower, the gynoecium occupies the highest position, while the other parts are situated below it. The ovary in such a flower is said to be superior ovary. Example is mustard, china rose, and brinjal, basically hibiscus, brinjal, and mustard. If gynoecium is situated at the center and other parts of the flowers are located on the rim of the thalamus, almost at the same level, it is called as perigynous. The ovary here is said to be half inferior. Example, plum, peach, rose. If the ovary is situated at the center and at the rim of the thalamus, around the rim, thalamus, if calyx, corolla arise, it is called as a perigynous flower. This we can see in case of peach, plum, rose. The superior we see in case of mustard, hibiscus, and brinjal. In case of perigynous, we see in plum, rose, and peach. In epigynous flowers, the margin of thalamus grows upwards, enclosing the ovary completely and getting fused with it. Okay, in case of epigynous flowers, that is a special kind of arrangement. The thalamus grows upward. In case if we see here, The thalamus grows upward and completely encloses the ovary. It will be like a covering and fuses with the ovary. In such a case, because the calyx corolla will be growing at the above position, it is called as the inferior ovary. In the other parts of the flower arise above the ovary. Hence, the ovary is said to be inferior, as shown in the flowers of guava, cucumber, and even pomegranate, ray florets of sunflower. Now, let's go to the next topic, parts of a flower. Each flower normally has four whorls: calyx, corolla, androecium, and gynoecium. First one, calyx. Calyx is the outermost wall of the flower, and members are called sepals. Generally, sepals are green, leaf-like, and protect the flower in the bud stage. The calyx may be gamosepalous, sepals united, or polysepalous, sepals free. Okay, what they're saying here is calyx is the outermost wall of the flower. Yes, and the members of this calyx are called as sepals. These sepals are generally green in color and leaf-like and protect the flower in bud stage. In the bud stage, if we see the flower is completely enclosed by sepals to protect it. And these sepals, not in the bud stage, normal stage, they can be gamosepalous, meaning they can be united, or polysepalous, free in condition. Next is corolla. Corolla is composed of petals. Petals are usually bright colored to attract insects for pollination. Like calyx, corolla may also be camopetalous, petals united, or polypetalous, petals free. The shape and color of corolla vary greatly in plants. Corolla may be tubular, bell-shaped, funnel-shaped, or wheel-shaped. Okay, corolla is basically the petals, and petals they are usually bright colored and attract insects. Similar to how calyx was classified into gamosepalous and polysepalous, petals or corolla can also be classified into gamopetalous and polypetalous. Where in gamopetalous, it is petals are united, fused. In polypetalous, they are free, and the shape, color variation is very high. There are many kind of variety of flowers and petal shapes. These are the parts of a flower. This is the pedicel, the stalk, calyx, corolla, gynoecium, androecium. Calyx, corolla, androecium, the stamen, and gynoecium, the ovary, stigma, and style. Now let's go to the next main topic, that is aestivation. The mode of arrangement of sepals or petals in the floral bud with respect to the other members of the same wall is known as aestivation. Basically, like how venation was the arrangement of veins and veinlets, here aestivation is the arrangement of flowers, I mean not flowers, petals or sepals with respect to each other in the same wall. The main types of aestivations, there are four types of aestivations, that are valvate, twisted, imbricate, and vexillary. Four types. The first one is valvate aestivation, second one is twisted aestivation, third one is imbricate aestivation, and fourth one is vexillary aestivation. When sepals or petals in a wall just touch one another at the margin without overlapping, as in calotropis. Calotropis was saw, it was an example for opposite phyllotaxy. Is opposite phyllotaxy, and it also has valvate aestivation. It is said to be valvate. Valvate aestivation when the flowers or sepals just touch each other but there is no overlapping. If one margin of the appendage overlaps that of the next one and so on, as in the China rose, lady's finger, and cotton, it is called as twisted aestivation. In case of plants like China rose, that is hibiscus flower, if we see, or lady's finger and cotton if we see, there will be overlap. There will be overlap in a single direction. This is the first one. This is the value estimation. There is no overlap here. There is no overlap at all. I mean, there will be a slight overlap, but it will just touching each other. No actual too much overlap. But in case of B, this is the twisted estimation. Twisted estimation, the flower, the petals and sepals are arranged in such a manner they overlap in one direction, like this. They overlap like this. This is a twisted estimation. And third one, it is imbricate estimation. It is also overlapping is there, but it's not in a specific direction. They just overlap each other. That's all. There's just overlap. There is no specific direction. And in case of the fourth type, that is vexillary, in vexillary, there is a new special arrangement of flower itself, where the petals are segregated into a standard. Standard is a name, not a definition. Standard, one standard, two wings, and two keels. These are called as keels. This is a vexillary estivation which we mainly see in leguminous plants such as pea beans. If the margins of the sepals or petals overlap one another but not in any particular direction, as in cassia and gulmohar, estivation is called as imbricate. We saw valvate estivation in calotropis, and in case of China rose, lady's finger and cotton, there is twisted. Imbricate we see in cassia and gulmohar. In pea and bean flowers, there are 5 petals. The largest petal is a standard, overlaps the 2 lateral petals, that is called as wings, which in turn overlap the 2 smallest anterior petals like keel. This type of estivation is known as the vexillary or papillonaceous estivation. Andricium. Let's go to the next main topic, that is andricium. It's not much is given here. Andricium is composed of stamens. Each stamen, which represents male reproductive organ, consists of a stalk or filament and an anther. Okay, andricium is basically stamens, and each stamen is a male reproductive organ. It consists of a stalk and an anther. The stalk is called as a filament, where the anther is a pollen sac. Each anther is usually bilobed, and each lobe has 2 chambers. That is what we call a bilobed dithecous anther, meaning there are 2 lobes in a single anther, and each lobe contains 2 chambers, that is the 2 separations, 2 thecas, and totally 4 thecas. The pollen sacs, the pollen grains are produced in pollen sacs. A sterile stamen is called as a staminode. Okay, these pollen grains are actually produced in pollen sacs, and if there is a sterile stamen which does not produce pollen grains, it is called as a staminode. Stamens of flowers may be united with the other members such as petals or among themselves. Now we are going to learn another classification based on the arrangement of stamens. One case, they may be united with the other members, like petals. If they are united with petals, stamens attached to petals, it's called as an epipetalous condition or epiphyllous condition. Stamens of flowers may be united with other members such as petals or among themselves. When stamens are first classification are attached to the petals, they are called epipetalous, as in brinjal if we see, or epiphyllous when they are attached to the perianth, as in flowers of lily. Perianth is a structure formed when we cannot differentiate calyx and corolla when both are fused. That is called a perianth. If stamens are attached to petals, epipetalous condition. If they are attached to perianth, they are epiphyllous condition. Epipetalous we see in brinjal, epiphyllous we see in flowers of lily. The stamen in a flower may either remain free. The next classification is when stamens fuse to each other. The stamens in a flower may remain free, that is called as a polyandrous condition where they remain free, or may be united in varying degrees. If they are united or fused, there can be different degrees. If they are free means only one condition, polyandrous. If they are not free, new classifications come up. The stamens may be united into one bunch or one bundle if all the stamens present are united into a single bunch of stamen. It is called as a monoadelphous condition. This is seen in a China rose, or two bundles diadelphous as in P, or if more than two bundles, it is called as a polyadelphous condition. This is seen in citrus. There may be variation in length of filament within a flower, as in salvia and mustard. Basically, one in the same flower only, one stamen may be long, one stamen may be small, short. This kind of variation we see in salvia and mustard plants. In Let's go to the next main topic, that is gynoecium. Gynoecium is a female reproductive part of the flower, and it is made up of one or more carpels. A carpel consists of three parts, namely stigma, style, and ovary. Very basic knowledge. Ovary is the enlarged basal part on which lies the elongated tube. The style connects to the ovary, the ovary to the stigma. The stigma is usually at the tip of the style and is the receptive surface for the pollen grains. Each ovary bears one or more ovules attached to it. And okay, let's start. After basic information. We start with each ovary bears one or more ovules attached to a flattened cushion-like placenta. Inside the ovary, there are ovules. Where these ovules are, that we will see. Ovules are attached to a flattened cushion-like structure. This structure is what we call a placenta. When more Okay, normally we think that a flower might contain only one ovary or one gynoecium. If that is gynoecium or carpel or pistil, if there is only one pistil or carpel, it is called as apocarpus. Not apocarpus. The condition that is described here is there are many carpels or pistils. Many carpels are there, but they are not fused. This can be seen in case of rose and lotus. There will be many carpels, many gynoeciums, but they won't be fused. This is called the apocarpus condition. And in case of the next condition, syncarpus, when there are many carpels, but they are fused instead. This we see in turnip, maybe. Syncarpus condition examples. Syncarpus condition we see in mustard, tomato, tulip, lily, not turnip but tulip. Okay. As in mustard, okay, they give examples here. I didn't see that. Syncarpus, when the carpels are fused, it is called in mustard and tomato. After fertilization, the ovules develop into seeds and the ovary matures into a fruit. After fertilization happens, the ovules will develop into seeds and the ovary matures into a fruit. We'll read more about that later in this chapter. Now let's get to again one more new term here, placentation. The arrangement of ovules within the ovary is known as placentation. The placentation are of different types, namely marginal, axial, parietal, basal, central, and precentral. Okay, what is placentation? Just like how venation is the arrangement of veinlets and veins on a leaf blade, estivation is the arrangement of flowers with respect to each other. Placentation is the arrangement of ovules within the ovary. We know that ovary contains ovules. As for how they are arranged, we do not know that. There are specific types of arrangement, like most general arrangement, which most of the flowers follow. which you will learn here. The different types, names of the different types are marginal, axial, parietal, basal, central, and precentral. Okay, let's see the diagram first. This is a pea plant. This is the ovary. In this ovary, the ovules are arranged to the margin of the ovary. Margin. That is why this is called as a marginal placentation. Marginal placentation. Next, in case of citrus fruits or even in case of an orange, if we see, ovules are arranged at the center like this. Ovules. Ovules are arranged at the center here. And this kind of placentation, where there's a division here like this, it is called as an axial placentation. Next one, it is this one. This is the para-ovules, and the placentation is parietal placentation. Next one, this one, all the ovules are arranged at the center. This is called as a precentral placentation. And this one, next one, E, here there is only one ovule at the base of the ovary. It is called as a basal placentation. Ovules arranged at the marginal for the margin, arranged at the margin for the marginal placentation, arranged at the axis for the axial placentation, arranged parietal for the parietal placentation, arranged at the center, free central placentation, arranged at the base, basal placentation. In the marginal placentation, the placenta forms a ridge along the ventral structure of the ovary, and the ovules are borne on this ridge, forming two rows, as in case of peas. And the placenta is axial, and the ovules are attached to it in a multilocular way. There are many locules here. Locule 1, locule 2, locule 3. There are no locules here. Both are arranged at the center, but there are locules here, no locules here. If they are arranged in a locular manner, multilocular ovary, it is axial placentation. The placentation is said to be axial, as in China rose, tomato, and lemon. Parietal placentation, the ovules develop at the inner wall of the ovary on the peripheral part. Ovary is one chambered, but it becomes two chambered due to the formation of false septum. Example, mustard and argemone. When the ovules are born at the central axis and septa are absent, as in dianthus and primrose, the placentation is called as precentral. In basal placentation, a placenta develops at the base of the ovary and single ovule is attached to it, as in sunflower and marigold. Examples are important to remember. Marginal, it is in case of PVC marginal placentation. Axial, we see in citrus fruits such as orange, etc., or China rose, lemon as well. In parietal placentation, the inner wall of the ovary or the peripheral part, ovary is actually one chambered ovary, but it becomes two chambered due to false septum. This is parietal placentation is seen in mustard and argemone. And if the central axis placentation is seen in dianthus and primrose. And in case of I mean precentral placentation is seen dianthus and primrose, and basal placentation we see in sunflower and marigold. Now let's come to the next main topic, that is The fruit is a characteristic feature of flowering plants. It is a mature of ripened ovary developed after fertilization. If a fruit is formed without fertilization of the ovary, it is called as a parthenocarpic fruit. Generally, the fruit consists of a wall or pericarp and seeds. Basically, they are saying that fruit is a characteristic feature of the flowering plants. It is a mature or ripened ovary. Fruit is generally formed from a true fruit is generally formed from the ovary. If the normally the fruit is also formed after fertilization. But if the fruit is formed without fertilization, then it is called as a parthenocarpic fruit. Generally, the fruit consists of a wall or pericarp and seeds. The pericarp may be dry or fleshy. When a pericarp is thick and fleshy, it is differentiated into an outer epicarp, the middle mesocarp, and the inner endocarp. Okay, the fruit wall is called as a pericarp, and in case of dry fruits, it is dry. In case of normal fruits, it is thick and fleshy. If it is thick and fleshy, it is again divided into three layers, that is epicarp, mesocarp, and endocarp. In case of mango and coconut, we see these three layers. Parts of fruit, A mango, B coconut. The outer layer is epicarp here. Mesocarp is the edible portion in case of mango. Seed is not edible. The layer covering the seed is called as the endocarp. And if there is a question, what is the edible part? Which part of the pericarp is edible in case of a mango? It is a mesocarp. And in case of a coconut as well, it is there is no epicarp mentioned here. There is a mesocarp and an endocarp. And in case of a coconut, the edible portion is the endocarp. In mango and coconut, the fruit is known as a drupe. They develop from monocarpellary superior ovaries and are not one-seeded. Are one-seeded. In mango, the pericarp is why they call it a drupe. Why a mango or coconut is called a drupe. What is the definition of a drupe? A drupe is a simple, fleshy, one-seeded or few-seeded fruit which the pericarp is differentiated into three distinct layers. Wait. The only thing edible in a coconut is not the endocarp, it's the endosperm. A drupe is a simple, fleshy, one-seeded or few-seeded fruit with a pericarp differentiated into three different layers. That is what a drupe is called. Differentiated in outer thin epicarp, a middle fleshy edible mesocarp, and inner stony hard endocarp. In coconut, which is also a drupe, the mesocarp is fibrous. The only thing edible in coconut is the endosperm, not the endocarp, the endosperm. In mango, it is a mesocarp. Now let's go to the next main topic, that is the seed here. The ovules after fertilization develop into a seed. A seed is made up of a seed coat and an embryo. The embryo is made up of a radicle, an embryonal axis, and or two cotyledons as in gram and p. Okay. After fertilizations, the ovules will develop into seeds. And a seed is made up of a seed coat and an embryo. If embryo is made up of a radical and embryonal axis and one cotyledon in case of wheat and maize monocots, and two cotyledons as in case of gram and pea dicotyledons. Separation of dicotyledons and monocotyledon plants. Let's see the structure of dicotyledonous seed. Structure of a dicotyledonous seed. The outermost covering of a seed is a seed coat. The seed coat has two layers, the outer testa and inner tegumen. The hilum is a scar on the seed coat through which the developing seeds were attached to the fruit. Above the hilum is a small coat called as the pore, called as the micropore. The micropyle. Within the seed coat is the embryo, consisting of an embryonal axis and two cotyledons. The cotyledons are often fleshy and full of reserved food materials. The two ends of the embryonal axis are present the radical and plumule. In some seeds, such as castor, the endosperm formed as results of double fertilization is a food storing tissue and called endospermic seeds. In plants such as bean, gram, pea, the endosperm is not present in the mature seeds, and such are called as non-endospermic or exalbuminous seeds. Endospermic seeds are called as albuminous seeds. Structure of dicotyledonous seed. There is a micropyle, the small pore, a hilum, the attachment scar, seed coat, testa, and tegmen. Cotyledons, two cotyledons in case of dicot seed, a radical, the future root, plumule, the future root. That's all. Structure of the monocotyledonous seed. Generally, monocotyledon seeds are endospermic, but some, as in orchids, are non-endospermic. Orchids have non-endospermic seeds, but normally they are endospermic. In the seeds of cereals such as maize, the seed coat is membranous and generally fused with the fruit wall. The endosperm is bulky and stores food. The outer covering of the endosperm separates the embryo by proteinaceous layer called as the alluron layer. The embryo is small and situated in a groove at one end of the endosperm. It consists of one large and shield-shaped cotyledon known as scutellum and a short axis with a plumule and a radical. The plumule and radical are enclosed in sheaths which are called as coleoptile, coleorhiza respectively. Okay. In monocotyledon seeds, most of the monocotyledon seeds are endospermic, but except for orchids. In seeds such as maize, the seed coat is membranous and it is generally fused with the fruit wall. The seed coat is actually fused with the fruit wall, and the endosperm is bulky and stores food. There is a covering that separates the endosperm from the embryo. This covering is through a proteinaceous layer called as the alluron layer, and the embryo is small. It is a small embryo and is situated at a groove at the end of the endosperm. At some end of the endosperm and a groove, there is a embryo situated. This embryo consists of a large and shield-shaped cotyledon known as a scutellum and a short axis with a plumule and a radical. There's axis, there is a scutellum cotyledon, there is a plumule and a radical. The plumule and radical, these are enclosed in sheaths called as coleoptile and coleorhiza. Let's see the diagram. Structure of a monocotyledon seed. This is the embryo situated in a groove. This is the endosperm. Alluron layer is this one separating the embryo from the endosperm. This is the endosperm here. Seed coat and fruit wall. Both are fused in case of maize. This is a scutellum, shield-shaped cotyledon. Coleoptile, the covering sheath of plumule, and coleorhiza, covering sheath of radical. These are the actual plumule and radicals. Now, that's with the actual chapter. Now, let's see a few families here, a few plant families. Semi-technical description of a typical flowering plant. This is not there in the new NCERT. Various morphological features are used to describe a flowering plant. The description has to be brief in a simple and scientific language and presented in a proper sequence. The plant is described beginning with its habitat, vegetative characters, roots, stem, and leaves, and then floral characters, inflorescence, and flower parts. After describing various parts of a plant, a floral diagram and a floral formula are presented. The floral formula is represented by some symbols. In the floral formula, BR stands for the bracteate, K stands for the calyx, C for corolla, P for perianth, A for androecium, G for gynoecium, G dash for superior, G above dash for inferior, and male, female, or bisexual plants. Actinomorphic, zygomorphic, fusion is indicated by enclosing the figure with the bracket and addition by a line drawn above the symbols and the floral parts. If there is a fusion like in gamopetalous or gamosepalous condition, there will be a bracket. A floral diagram provides information about number of parts of a flower, their arrangement and the relation they have with one another. The position of the mother axis with respect to the flower is respected by a dot on the top of the floral diagram. Calyx, corolla, androecium, and gynoecium are drawn in successive whorls, calyx beginning outermost and gynoecium being the inner center. Floral formula also shows cohesion and adhesion within the parts of the whorls and between the whorls. The floral diagrams and floral formula in figure 5.20 represent the mustard plant family Brassicaceae. I'll see the diagram 1 minute. Okay, then let's continue. There are basically three families given here: the Fabaceae, Solanaceae, and the last one was Liliaceae family. Let's start with the Fabaceae family. Description of some important families. Fabaceae, the family was earlier called as a Papilionaceae family, a subfamily of family Leguminaceae. It is distributed all over the world. The vegetative characters: trees, shrubs, herbs, root with root nodules. That is the main character here. The nodules in the Leguminaceae plants. Stem erect or climber. Okay, I forgot to see the leaf floral diagram here. The Brassicaceae family. Floral diagram with floral formula. We see the diagram here. There's an actinomorphic flower. It is bisexual. 2+2 arrangement of the calyx. And arrangement, if we see, it is seeming to an imbricate aestivation. And four corolla, meaning it is a tetramerous flower. 2+4 two bundles condition. 2+4. Gynoecium is epigynous. I mean hypogynous, not epigynous, meaning superior ovary. And there are two ovaries, fused two ovaries. Okay, vegetative characters. There are trees, shrubs, herbs, roots with nodules. They can be erect or climber. Stem, leaves. They can be alternate, pinnately compound, or simple. Leaf base is a pulvinous leaf base. It is a swollen leaf base. It is a stipulate leaf. Venation is reticulate. Pisum sativum, pea plant. These are all the diagrams given here: a flowering twig, a flower, petals, reproductive parts, carpel. Oops. Yes. Carpel and the floral diagram here given here. A is the plant, actual plant. B is the flowering twig. B is the actual. A is the flowering twigs. A is the flowering twig. B is the flower. C is the petals. D is the reproductive part, basically stamen and ovary. And E is the lateral section of a carpel. Basically, we saw the marginal arrangement before, same thing. Now, floral characters. Inflorescence, it is a racemose inflorescence, infinite growth. Flower, bisexual, zygomorphic. Calyx, sepals 5, gamosepalous, valvate, imbricate aestivation. It can be a valvate aestivation, that is calyx, not corolla. Corolla is vexillary. Calyx is valvate or imbricate aestivation. The corolla, petals 5 petals, pentamerous, polypetals, free petals. Papilionaceous, consisting of a posterior standard, two lateral, two anterior ones, forming a keel, enclosing stamens and pistil. Vexillary aestivation. Andrecium, 10 stamen, diadelphous, anther dithecus. Gynoecium, ovary superior, monocarpellary, unilocular with many ovules, style is single. Fruit, legume, it's a legume. Seed, one to many. It's a non-endospermic seed, pea, beans, whatever it is. Floral formula is this one. It's a zygomorphic flower. Bisexual, 5 fused calyx. Calyx is 1+2+2. Only the keels are fused. And Risham, 9+1 condition, 9 are fused and 1. Superior gynoecium. Economic importance is many plants belonging to the family are sources of pulses, gram, arhar, same, moong, soya bean, edible oil, soya bean groundnut, dye, indigofera, fibers, sun hemp, fodder, sesbania, trifolium, ornamentals, lupin, sweet pea, medicine, mulati, etc. All of these are examples for different uses. Solanaceae family, it is a large family commonly called as the potato family. It is because potato is a part of this family. It is widely distributed in tropics, subtropics, and even temperate zones. Vegetative characters, plants mostly herbs, shrubs, and rarely small trees. Stem herbaceous, rarely woody. They're aerial, erect, cylindrical, branched, solid, or hollow, hairy or glabrous. Underground stem in potato, Solanum tuberosum. The genetic name of potato plant is Solanum tuberosum. Solanum nigrum, that is a macoy plant. A is the flowering twig. Here, this is the flowering twig. B, flower. This is the actual flower. C is LS of the flower, basically lateral section of a flower. D is stamen. E is carpel here. F is the floral diagram here. Now leaves alternate, simple, rarely pinnately compound, exstipulate, venation is reticulate. Alternate leaves, they're simple leaves, rarely pinnately compound. They can be simple or rarely they will be pinnately compound. Exstipulate, venation is reticulate. Floral characters are inflorescences, solitary, axillary, or cymose as seen in solanum, as in solanum. It can be axillary, solitary, or cymose. Flower, it is bisexual, actinomorphic. Calyx, sepals 5, united, meaning they are fused, they're persistent, and valvate aestivation for the calyx. Corolla, petals 5, united, valvate aestivation, both valvate. Androecium, stamens 5, epipetalous. Gynoecium, meaning they're connected to the petals. Gynoecium, bicarpellary, two carpels, obligately placed, syncarpus fused. Ovaries superior, bilocular, placenta swollen with many ovules. Axile is the placentation. Fruits, berry or capsule. Seeds, many endosperms, berry or capsule. Seeds, many endospermous. Many seeds are there, they are endospermous seeds. The floral formula is here. Actinomorphic, bisexual, 5 calyx fused, 5 petal fused with the androecium 5. Gynoecium is superior ovary, and 2 bicarpellary fused. So much is given with so much information is given with such a small formula. Many plants belonging to this family are source of food: tomato, brinjal, potato, spice, chili, medicine, belladonna, ashwagandha, fumigatory tobacco, ornamentals, petunia. All these are part of the Solanaceae. Now coming to the Liliaceae family, commonly called the lily family, is a characteristic representative of monocotyledonous plants. It is distributed worldwide. Vegetative characteristics: perennial herbs with underground bulbs, corms, rhizomes. There are perennial herbs, they're basically underground. There are bulbs, corms, or rhizomes. Leaves, they are mostly basal, alternate, linear, Exstipulate with parallel variation because they're monocots. Floral characters. Inflorescence, it is solitary or cymose. Often umbellate cluster. They will be forming clusters. Umbellate clusters. Flower, bisexual. It is a bisexual flower. Actinomorphic. Perianth, tepals. 6, 3 plus 3, as I said before. Perianth, that's not a fusion of both sepals and petals, is called as tepals. And there are 6 tepals. There are 6 tepals, 3 plus 3 arrangement, often united into a tube. Valvate estivation. Anoecium stamen is 6 plus 6, 3 plus 3 epipetalous, arranged to the basically epiphylus actually. Gynoecium tricarpellary, syncarpus, ovary is superior, trilocular with many ocules, presentation is axillary. Fruit, it is a capsule, it is rarely a berry. Seed, endospermous, floral formula, it is a bracteate, actinomorphic, bisexual, perianth or tepals, 3 plus 3, connected to the andricium, epiphylous condition, 3 plus 3, and here it is a perigynous ovary. Economic importance here. Many plants belonging to this family are good ornamentals. Tulip gloriosa, source of medicine. Aloe, vegetables, asparagus, and colchicine, colchicum autumnale. This is Allium cepa, an onion plant. Basically, this one, which most of us have seen. A is the plant, B is the inflorescence, C is the flower here, D is the floral diagram. This is also inflorescence. Now that's with the chapter. Let's see the summary. I'll just read it. Summary: flowering plants exhibit enormous variation in shape, size, structure, mode of nutrition, lifespan, habitat. They have well-developed root and shoot systems. Root system is either tap root or fibrous. Generally, dicotyledonous plants have tap roots. Monocotyledonous plants have fibrous roots. The roots in some plants were modified for storage of food, mechanical support, and respiration. Shoot system is differentiated into stem, leaves, flowers, and fruit. The morphological features of stem, like presence of nodes and internodes, multicellular hair, and positively phototropic nature, help differentiate the stems from roots. Stem also get modified to perform diverse functions such as storage. Stems also get modified, storage, food, vegetative propagation, protection under different conditions. Leaf is a lateral outgrowth of stem developed exogenously at the node. These are green in color to perform the function of photosynthesis. If expect marked variations in their size, margin, apex, and extents of incisions of the leaf blade. Like other parts of the plant, leaves also get modified as tendrils, spines for climbing and protection, respectively. The flower is a modified shoot meant for sexual reproduction. The flowers are arranged in different types of inflorescences. exhibit enormous variation, structure, symmetry, position of ovary in relation to other parts, arrangement of petals, sepals, ovules, etc. After fertilization, the ovary is modified into fruits and ovules into seeds. Seeds either may be monocotyledonous or dicotyledonous. They vary in shape, size, and period of viability. The floral characteristic form the basis of classification and identification of flowering plants. This can be illustrated through semi-technical description of families. Hence, a flowering plant is described in a definite sequence by using scientific terms. The floral features are represented in the summarized form as floral diagrams and floral formula. With that, we have completed first revision via NCERT of this chapter completed. See you in my next video.